Welcome to Paper Simplified, a podcast brought to you by SILMA AI. Today, we're diving into a research paper. It's called Towards an AI Co-Scientist. And it's really interesting because it talks about this system, this AI system that's designed to not just, analyze data, but actually like collaborate with scientists, really participate in the whole scientific process.
Yeah, it's not just crunching numbers or, spitting out some results. This AI is designed to actually think like a scientist. And it uses the Gemini 2.0 model to kind of mirror the scientific method, which is really fascinating.
So it's like it's actually trying to make discoveries.
Yeah,
Like it's not just a tool, it's like a partner.
exactly. And the way it works is, a scientist would give the AI a research goal, like in plain English, and then the AI goes and dives into all the scientific literature, analyzes the information, and then boom, it comes up with original hypotheses and even suggests experiments to test them out.
Wow, that's pretty credible. So I wouldn't have to learn how to code or anything to use it.
Nope, not at all. The system is designed to be really user-friendly. It has a natural language interface, so you can just chat with it like you're talking to a colleague.
So it's like having a super smart research assistant, one that can read and understand tons of scientific papers.
That's a good way to put it, but there's a lot going on under the hood.
Okay, let's unpack that a bit. How is this AI co-scientist actually structured?
Sure. So the system has four main components. First, there's this thing called the asynchronous task framework.
Asynchronous task framework. Okay, that sounds complicated. What is that?
Well, basically, you can think of it like a project manager. It makes sure all the different parts of the system are working together smoothly and efficiently.
So it's not just one big AI brain trying to do everything at once.
Right. It breaks down the whole process of scientific discovery into smaller, more manageable tasks. And this helps to make the best use of computational resources.
That makes sense. What are the other components?
Okay, so then you have these specialized agents, each with a specific role to play. So for example, you've got the generation agent. And that one's responsible for coming up with the hypotheses and the research proposals.
So it's like the brainstorming engine of the system.
Yeah, you could say that. But of course, we need to make sure those ideas are actually good. So that's where the reflection agent comes in.
The reflection agent, what does that do?
It acts like a critic. It evaluates all those hypotheses that the generation agent comes up with, checks if they're actually novel and scientifically sound, make sure they're not just crazy ideas.
So it's like a built-in peer review system.
Exactly. And then we have the ranking agent, which, well, it kind of prioritizes the hypotheses based on how much potential they have. Helps the scientists focus on the most promising ones.
This system is sounding more and more impressive. What about the last component?
Right. The last one is the evolution agent. And that one's job is to basically refine and improve the existing hypotheses. It takes in feedback and new information and constantly tries to make the ideas better, sort of like having a dedicated team optimizing the research direction all the time.
It's like a well-coordinated team, even though the members are algorithms.
Yeah, that's a good way to think about it. And of course, the system also has access to tools like web search, so it can always get the most up-to-date information.
Okay, so this all sounds great in theory, but how does it actually perform in the real world? Have they tested this thing out?
Oh yeah, they've put it to the test in several different areas: drug repurposing, novel target discovery, and antimicrobial resistance. And the results are pretty exciting.
Let's start with drug repurposing. What was the AI co-scientist doing there?
Well, the challenge was to find new uses for existing drugs, specifically in cancer treatment. And you know what? This AI scientist was actually able to analyze huge data sets and suggest some really plausible drug repurposing candidates for acute myeloid leukemia.
Acute myeloid leukemia. That's a type of blood cancer, right?
That's right. And the impressive thing is these candidates were then validated in vitro experiments, like they actually worked. So it shows that the AI can identify promising leads for drug development.
Wow, so it's not just coming up with random ideas, it's generating leads that actually have potential.
Exactly. And it even went a step further. It actually generated these detailed proposals formatted just like NIH-specific aims pages. And those proposals were reviewed by expert oncologists. And they got really positive feedback.
So it's not just throwing out ideas, it's producing concrete, actionable proposals. That's amazing.
It is pretty remarkable. But it's important to remember this AI co-scientist isn't meant to replace human scientists.
Right, it's more like a tool to help them.
Exactly. It's meant to augment their capabilities and, accelerate the drug discovery process, make it more efficient.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
What about novel target discovery? How did the AI co-scientists do in that area?
Well, they tested it in the field of liver fibrosis research, and that's a
Yeah.
pretty tough one.
Yet liver fibrosis is a complex disease. Finding effective treatments for that is a huge challenge.
Right, and the AI co-scientist was given the task of identifying new therapeutic targets, things that could targeted by drugs. And it did something pretty amazing.
What did it do?
Well, it analyzed all this data from multiple sources, and you know what? It actually came up with some completely new hypotheses about how epigenetic alterations contribute to liver fibrosis, like totally novel ideas.
So it's not just suggesting existing targets, it's uncovering entirely new ones. That's pretty groundbreaking.
It is. And get this, it even pinpointed 3 specific epigenetic targets. And those were later validated through experiments. So the AI suggestions led to real discoveries.
Wow, this AI co-scientist is truly remarkable. What about the antimicrobial resistance testing? What happened there?
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting. The AI co-scientist was tasked with, looking into how bacteria transfer genes. And it actually managed to replicate a major discovery.
A discovery, like something scientists had already figured out.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. This discovery was so new, it hadn't even been published yet.
Wait, so the AI made a discovery that human researchers hadn't even published yet. That's incredible.
Right, it's kind of mind-blowing. And the AI got it right. It correctly hypothesized how these things called CFPICIs, capsid-forming phage-inducible chromosomal islands, exist across different bacteria species, even though that information wasn't publicly available.
That's really something else. It suggests that this AI co-scientist could actually make independent discoveries,
Yeah.
speed up research in a big way.
Exactly. Especially in areas like antimicrobial resistance, where we desperately need new solutions. The AI co-scientist could be a game changer, helping us understand how bacteria evolve resistance and then coming up with new strategies to fight back.
This is all incredibly exciting, but I'm sure there are also challenges involved in developing such a powerful system. Like, what are some of the potential downsides or limitations?
Oh, yeah, you're absolutely right. There are definitely some important considerations, and the paper does acknowledge those.
Well, let's delve into those challenges in the next part of our deep dive then.
Sounds good. We'll take a look at the strengths and limitations of this AI system and discuss what it all means for the future of scientific discovery.
Okay, stay tuned, everyone.
Yeah.
Welcome back to Papers Simplified. We've been talking about this AI co-scientist that can actually participate in the scientific process, not just analyze data. It's really fascinating stuff.
It is, and we talked about how it works, like the different components and all that. But like you said, there are always challenges with new technology, especially something this powerful.
Right. And the paper does mention some of those challenges. So what are some of the biggest ones they highlight?
Well, one of the things they talk about is the data the AI learns from. It mainly relies on published scientific literature, right?
Yeah.
And that can be a problem because, there's this bias towards positive results.
Oh, yeah, like the whole file drawer problem, where studies that don't find anything interesting are less likely to get published.
Exactly. So if the AI is mainly trained on successful experiments, it might miss out on important lessons from the failures. It could end up going down less efficient research paths.
That's a really good point. It kind of highlights how important it is to address that publication bias in science generally,
Yeah.
not just for AI.
Absolutely. Another challenge is, the limitations of the large language models themselves, the LLMs.
Right, because this AI co-scientist is built on the Gemini 2.0 model, right?
Yes. And those models are super powerful, but they're not perfect. They can still make mistakes, like factual errors and stuff.
Yeah.
And they can also inherit biases from the data they're trained on.
So even though this AI can process tons of information, it's not immune to making mistakes or, reflecting those biases that might already exist in the scientific literature.
Precisely. And that's why human oversight is so important. Having scientists in the loop to guide the AI and make sure it's on the right track.
It's not just about ethics, it's about ensuring scientific rigor too, making sure the AI's findings are actually valid.
Absolutely. The AI co-scientist is a tool, and like any tool, it needs to be used responsibly and critically.
And speaking of rigor, the paper also talks about the challenge of evaluating the AI's performance. Like, how do you actually measure its success?
Yeah, that's a big question. How do you measure the quality and the novelty and the potential impact of all the hypotheses and experiments it generates?
Yeah, like just counting publications or citations doesn't really capture the full picture, right?
Exactly. We need new ways to evaluate this. Metrics that really take into account things like the AI's ability to identify promising research directions, to generate hypotheses that can actually be tested, and even, spark new lines of inquiry that human researchers might have missed.
Yeah, developing those kinds of metrics will be crucial to really understand the impact of AI co-scientists and make sure they're truly contributing to science.
It's a challenge for sure, but it's also an opportunity to rethink how we evaluate scientific contributions in general in this new age of AI.
Now, there's this other concept that the paper mentions, test time compute scaling. What is that exactly?
Well, it's basically the idea that the AI co-scientist can get better and better as it has access to more computational power, during that hypothesis generation phase.
So the more computing power you give it, the better it performs.
Yeah, basically. And they actually showed that with more computation, the AI was able to generate hypotheses that were not just more novel, but were also considered more potentially impactful by human experts.
That's really interesting. So it's not just about the algorithm, it's also about the resources you give it.
Right. It highlights the importance of investing in that computational infrastructure to really support these advanced AI systems.
Now, beyond all the technical stuff, it's kind of hard to ignore the bigger implications of having AI actually participating in scientific discovery. Like,
Yeah.
what does this mean for the future of science?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Will AI co-scientists fundamentally change how research is done?
Like, will they speed up discoveries, lead to breakthroughs in all sorts of fields?
It's definitely possible. And they could also change what scientists focus on. If the AI can handle analyzing huge data sets and identifying promising areas to explore, that could free up human scientists to focus on the more complex stuff, the things that require creativity and critical thinking and ethical judgment.
Yeah, like humans could become more like research directors,
Hmm.
guiding the AI and interpreting the results and making sure everything is being done ethically.
Exactly. It's about using the strengths of both AI and human intelligence, working together to create a more efficient and impactful research system.
So it's a collaboration, really, a partnership between AI and humans.
Yeah, and that partnership could really transform science as we know it.
It's a fascinating discussion, but I feel like we've only just scratched the surface here. There's so much more to explore.
Right. There are still a lot of unknowns and challenges to think about.
Well, in the final part of our deep dive, let's talk about the future of this technology. Where could it all lead?
Sounds good. We can delve into the potential applications, the ethical considerations, and all the exciting possibilities that lie ahead.
All right, everyone, stay tuned for the final part of our deep dive. Welcome back to Paper Simplified. We've been exploring this amazing AI co-scientist, learning how it works and discussing the challenges it presents. Now I'm really curious about the future. What's next for this technology? What exciting possibilities are on the horizon?
Well, one thing that's really taking off is combining AI co-scientists with other cool tech like robotics and automation.
So instead of just suggesting experiments, the AI could actually run them, like a robot scientist in the lab.
Yeah, imagine a lab that runs itself. The AI designs the experiments, the robots carry them out, the AI analyzes the data, refines the experiments, and it just keeps going. It would be like a self-driving lab, constantly learning and improving.
Wow, a self-driving lab. That's incredible. Human scientists would have so much more time to think about the big picture and the ethics of it all.
Exactly. Another trend is developing specialized AI co-scientists for specific fields.
So instead of one AI for all of science, we'd have one for cancer research, one for material science, one for climate modeling, and so on.
Right. That way, the AI can really dive deep into a particular area and become an expert, making it even better at generating hypotheses and designing experiments.
That makes sense. But a lot of the most exciting research these days is happening where different fields overlap. How would AI co-scientists handle that?
That's a great point. We might need to train them on data from multiple disciplines so they can see the connections between different areas of science. They might even spot things that humans miss because they're so focused on one field.
It's like giving them a wider view of the whole scientific landscape. That's fascinating.
It is, and it brings up another important area, making sure these AI co-scientists can explain their reasoning. We talked about transparency before, but it's really crucial.
Yeah, if we don't understand how the AI came up with an idea, it's hard to trust it completely.
Exactly. We need to be able to see inside the AI's brain a little bit. That way, scientists can really collaborate with the AI and make sure it's truly augmenting human intelligence, not just replacing it.
It sounds like there's still a lot of work to do, but the potential is huge.
It is. But we also need to think about the risks. Some people worry that if we rely too much on AI, human scientists might lose some of their skills and intuition.
It's like the classic fear of robots taking over. But in this case, it's robots taking over science.
Right, we need to be careful about that. We need ethical guidelines and rules to make sure AI co-scientists are used responsibly and don't diminish the importance of human scientists.
And what about misuse? What if someone intentionally uses an AI co-scientist to create biased or misleading research?
That's a valid concern. We need safeguards. Things like peer review, independent verification, and transparency about how the AI was developed and trained.
Transparency and accountability are so important, especially with a technology this powerful.
I agree. And that's a key takeaway from our discussion today. AI co-scientists offer an amazing opportunity to accelerate scientific discovery, but we need to approach it carefully and thoughtfully.
We need to be excited about the possibilities, but also cautious about the risks.
Exactly. This is just the beginning, and it's going to be an incredible journey.
Well, thanks for joining us on this deep dive into the world of AI co-scientists. It's been a fascinating conversation.
My pleasure. It's an exciting field, and I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds.
We'll see you next time on Paper Simplified.